The terror of having to undo what you've worked for is what keeps more women stuck than any boss or glass ceiling ever has. Today, we're talking about that. The guilt for not being grateful enough for this great job and career, for a life people would want, is one of the most effective ways that women get stuck and keep themselves stuck. The work that used to energize you now just exhausts you. And maybe you're thinking it's perimenopause, it's midlife, it's just me wanting too much. It's not satisfying. It's, I gave it everything and I still feel empty. I want to give you one thing to stop, one thing to start, and the truth to carry forward. So one thing to stop.
Enough already! You've worked harder, stayed later, smiled through it, you've shrunk yourself, you've overexplained yourself, you've apologized for yourself, and still walked away feeling like you were the problem. You weren't. You've been playing by rules that were never designed for you, and you're exhausted. You're done. I'm Coach Mo, and this is Enough Already, the podcast for women who are done performing and ready to heal, reclaim, and redefine what their life actually gets to look like when you step into your real power. No more shrinking, no more trying to be less or more, or whatever they need you to be. We're going to name exactly what happened, get free from it, and figure out what comes next. This is your space. This is your moment. Women, we are rising. Let's get into it.
She had everything on paper: the title, the salary, the team, the career that looked exactly right from the outside. And she sat in my office and said, I think I've built the wrong life, not the wrong job, the wrong life. And she was terrified to say that out loud because she'd worked so hard to get here. The terror of having to undo what you've worked for is what keeps more women stuck than any boss or glass ceiling ever has. Today, we're talking about that. Enough already. Women winning. You've worked harder, stayed later, smiled through it. You've shrunk yourself. You've overexplained yourself. You've apologized for yourself and still walked away feeling like you were the problem. Enough already. You weren't the problem. You've been playing by rules that were never designed for you, and you're exhausted. You're done. I'm Coach Mo, and this is Enough Already, the podcast for women who are done performing and ready to heal, reclaim, and redefine what their life actually gets to look like when they step into their real power. I call it soul power. So you can no longer shrink, no more trying to be less or more or whatever they need you to be. Because when you find your soul power, you stop performing and start leading. We're going to name exactly what happened, get free from it, and figure out what comes next. This is your space. This is your moment. Women, we are rising. Let's get into it. I've been coaching long enough to recognize the specific kind of pain that comes from a life that looks great from the outside and doesn't fit on the inside. It's confusing pain because it comes wrapped in something you're supposed to be grateful for. And so when it shows up, the creepy sense that something isn't right, that the career you've built isn't quite you anymore, that you've been performing a version of success that doesn't actually match what you want. And perhaps you've really gotten sideways with your boss or some other key colleagues. You end up second guessing yourself and second guessing your career choice. I've coached many women after they've quit, thinking that engineering or marketing or healthcare, nonprofit, mortgage underwriting, banking, tech, you name it. They were convinced that the thing that they chose for a career was the wrong thing. And for a while, they talked themselves out of it. And you know what? After a while, that's the only escape route. And that becomes the festering of guilt, the guilt for not being grateful enough for this great job and career, for a life people would want, is one of the most effective ways that women get stuck and keep themselves stuck. The guilt of feeling like you should be happy and grateful for what you have, even though you feel inside it no longer fits. And today, I want to give you permission to take that feeling inside seriously, not to blow up your life, not to make any decisions today, just to stop making the feeling wrong. I tell my executive clients regularly, you have to embrace the mantra of I'm not wrong here. And although that might sound like a little bit of an arrogant, egotistical statement, it helps balance the equation because as a woman, you were taught, trained, conditioned, and programmed to think that if situation doesn't go well, it's because of you. Women, we were raised to take on all the feelings in the room. And we were also raised to feel grateful for the crap and the crumbs that we got because wanting something different is in the world we were raised ingratitude. But I want you to champion yourself right now. This is self awareness, and it's one of the most powerful and courageous things a professional woman can practice being self aware. And let me describe what it feels like when a career stops fitting, because I think sometimes we need permission to name the experience. We can do something about it. If you're listening to this podcast right now and you're like, Mo, you are so on it. I want you to think while I'm continuing to speak about this what's the real driver that is keeping you in that discomfort? Because the work that used to energize you now just exhausts you. And maybe you're thinking it's perimenopause, it's midlife, it's just me wanting too much. It's not satisfying. It's I gave it everything and I still feel empty. And what's the point of continuing? You've likely got 10 or 20 more years in your career, even if it's one or two. When you stop growing, the growth available to you no longer matches the direction that you actually feel is the direction you're in. And you can see the constraints there. And we talk about the glass ceiling, which is something that feels others imposed. But there's also expectations that we carry inside of ourselves that we shouldn't want more, that we can't want more, that we're a problem if we can't handle our current work. Sometimes it's your values that have shifted. What matters to you 10 years ago when you made some of those career choices doesn't occupy the same place anymore. And the career you built around these old values is like wearing clothes that used to fit and not wanting to put them on every day. You're performing the enthusiasm. I've been there myself when I literally dragged myself to work because I wanted to complete the mission I started years earlier. I even had colleagues say to me in several of my roles, "Why are you still here?" They're literally punishing you in meetings. So you're playing a character that used to be you. Or maybe you're playing a character that was still a performance and no longer are you willing to perform. You've started noticing what other people's work looks like, not out of envy exactly, more like possibility, like your imagination is starting to look around, ask questions it wasn't asking before. These are not small signs. This is your soul keeping score and wanting you to pay attention that growth needs to happen. Let's talk about what actually holds you in your careers that no longer fit because it's almost never what you think it is. You might think it's money. Sometimes it is. Usually, when you get really underneath it, it's not the money, it's the identity. Who are you if you're not this? We recently had a client who was in a role for 22 years. She was darn good at it. It gave her stability, it gave her a sense of purpose and the knowledge of that company. She was underpaid by 50 to $60,000 a year. She knew it. She didn't want to push it. And when she started feeling ready for growth, she realized that all the expertise that she had, all the stability she craved, was no longer something she wanted to keep going into. She wanted to grow and expand her career and the best expression of herself, and she finally felt worth making the 50 to $60,000 more. It took courage, and that's the point. Because when you understand the voice that's happening inside and you trust it even just a little bit, and you get your soul to be more powerful so you can trust it and a little bit more. And then we help this woman with strategies that are world class. Yes, of course you need a resume. Yes, of course you need the best LinkedIn profile. Of course you need all that. And after you need all that, you need to be able to interview well and talk about yourself. The level of confidence it takes to position yourself for what's likely next for you that you're feeling ready for, but you have no idea how to get there. And you've put yourself in a trap because you don't know how to get there. and no one's helping you, and you're not sure that you're actually right about what you want. And this fear keeps boiling up and bubbling up and poking at your self doubt, poking at your fears. You almost give up wanting it because it is so conflicting and confusing to want something more. We women were trained and raised and programmed and conditioned to accept what we get. You know how many clients I've had who have said to me, I've never asked for more, especially not in an interview. And they've answered all the questions. What are you making now? And they've answered. By the way, don't answer that question. Here's a little tip, write this down. If they say in an interview, what are you making right now? Please understand that that's illegal in several cities and states, number one. Number two, that is one of the reasons why women's salary level is depressed relative to men, because women will be honest. Sorry to say this, guys, but you usually inflate it. We could go into a Freudian diatribe on that, but we won't. Women usually give the exact number. And here's the real answer to that question. What I'm looking to get paid for the role that you're offering is this number. With my expertise and experience, this is the right number for what I bring to the table and what the market is for that role. Stand by your value and the role's value, the level of contribution that you give to a job, expertise, experience, the stuff that doesn't mean you have to work harder, is calibrated with the compensation for that role. If you're making 150 and you go to 200, you don't work 30% more to earn that $50,000 extra. You've brought yourself experience, expertise, and a little education thrown in there. You've brought that to the table for the compensation. Please get that out of your mind. If you have 15 to 20 years of experience in your career, you should be accelerating. You're no longer taking a job just to learn and get experience. Please, ladies, let's get with it. You are worth what the market says that job is worth. And if you're underpaid, and you likely are if you stayed at a company more than 5 or 7 years, you're likely underpaid to the market, and you're likely to have been lagging in salary increases relative to inflation, especially since 2020. 6 years of escalation of prices and the cost of living, your salary has likely not kept pace. And it's about a 25% increase that you would need from what you were being paid at the beginning of 2020. Take a look at your salary. You're not starting over to look for a new job. You're building on a strong foundation of what you've built for yourself. This particular client who took a new job, fully remote, $58,000 increase. She got guidance, she got coaching, and she landed the job. She was perfect for it. So, a career pivot is not returning to zero. I want to help women not think that they have to go into a major pivot and start from entry level. No, 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 no. That is a strategic mistake, and it's going to cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars. What you really need to do is recover from your burnout and your self doubt and bringing your soul up. And I want to make this distinction because a career redesign is a leap. And for most people, they're thinking, leap, I can't. So a leap is what you do with a plan. A quit is what you do with no plan. I'm not recommending a quit. I'm recommending a leap with a plan. A pivot that is deliberate, that has a strategic shift of direction that builds on what you already have while moving you towards something that fits better, a better company, better compensation, a different view of the contribution you're giving. So please understand that investigation phase, that getting to understand who you really are and what you bring to the table happens when you take responsibility and have courage to look at what you've done and put it on paper. Not just what kind of a job could I get? Because that's defeatist from the beginning. So, your career redesign is one of the most complex things to think through. And alone, it feels impossible because the stakes feel so high and the variables are so personal and the fear gets so loud. It's almost impossible to think clearly without a thinking partner. And what I have actually recently built for my clients, and now I'm offering to you if you're a non client, although if you're listening and a client, it's available for you too. Coach Mobi is all of my coaching. Well, 250 hours or so of my coaching and my career methodology. You can update a resume, a LinkedIn profile. You can get interview questions and answers directly from her. And she develops a relationship with you and gets to know you. So if you put your accomplishments in Mobi and tell her who you are, if you load a current resume and you say, "Hey, Mobi, I need to upgrade this resume from director to senior director or vice president," she's going to tell you exactly what you need to do. So Mobi is built not just for the career redesign and career leap forward, but also helping you navigate what's in front of you now. She helps you cut through the panic and spiraling and all the noise to get into what you actually want, deserve, and desire. Not the vague sense that something needs to change. She's going to get real with you. Specific direction coming through Mobi to help you. She builds a realistic bridge between where you are and where you want to be. No drama, no baggage, no recklessness, just clarity. You can't have a conversation with this level of clarity with a human being because we bring our biases. And I often joke with my clients, there's about 50 plus users on Mobi right now. We've finished our pilot phase and we're ready to offer it to you. They've all said they feel that they can share and be a different level of themselves with Mobi than they've been able to be with any human being. So, as we wrap up this, I want to give you one thing to stop, one thing to start, and the truth to carry forward. So, one thing to stop: stop treating "I want something different" as an emergency or as something to be suppressed. The discomfort of wanting more or something different is not a problem to solve with more gratitude. It's information. Start treating it that way. It's like you're on a long trip across the country and your tank is empty. You pull off and fill up. You don't panic and say, "I'll never get there." Here's one thing to start. This week, answer the question honestly, in writing, alone, no performance. If nothing about this career could change, would I stay? If the answer is no, that's your starting point. You don't have to do anything with it yet, but you need to know what's your commitment level to how you feel and whether you want to stay. Here's one thing to carry forward for you: you didn't make a mistake. The path you took made sense with who you were when you made the decision to have that job, join that company, etc. You've grown, and wanting your career to grow is normal and natural. And as a matter of fact, it's the nature of how the universe works. The universe is built on expansion and growth. That's why we sort of obsess about it. And wanting more is not betrayal of what you've built, it's building on what you've built. It's the most honest thing you can do, and it's gonna lead you to a courageous step. Take that step, whatever it might be, even if it's just awareness. Please do not make yourself wrong for wanting more. If that job doesn't fit anymore, get honest with yourself and start putting together a plan. And if you want a simple, low-cost option, Coach Mobi can help you go. So, in today's episode, if something landed real, if something stirred you that you haven't had the space to look at, Mobi is there for you tonight. mofall.com/Mobi. Tonight, you can get started having a conversation and being able to organize your thoughts with Mobi. Mobi is my AI powered coaching platform built on 12 years of my soul powered methodology. I've helped over 2,000 clients advance their careers. Some got promotions, some got new jobs, and some, well, most of them, began feeling awesome inside. Mobi will meet you where you are, ask the questions that will cut through the noise, and help you do the soul work first before the strategy. If you don't know who you are inside there, a strategic move will be wrong because it will not match who you are. Mobi will help you do that. And that alignment changes everything. The link is in the show notes. Soul first, strategy next, every time. We'll see you on the next episode. This is Coach Mo, mofall.com.
If today's episode hit home, share it with a woman who needs to hear it. Because the best thing we can do is make sure no woman sits alone in an experience that has a name. You've been listening to enough already. I'm Coach Mo Fall. Please subscribe and like and comment so this can be sent to more women just like you who needs to hear there is a different way. Take good care.